Hello there. Welcome to the very first episode of the Data Vault radio show. Each week we're going to take a look at the news that's been happening around the world in terms of data management. We're going to get to know a few people within the industry a whole lot better, and we're going to take a look back at some of my favorite pieces of content that we've produced with the Data Vault Innovators Community over the last couple of years. So stay tuned, the show's about to start. Hi, welcome to the Data Vault radio show. This is our first episode, so we're kind of still finding our feet a little bit. The plan here is to give you updates each week of news from around the data management industry and get to know some of the people involved in the industry a little bit better, doing a bit of a deep dive with them to find out about the person behind the organization or the work that they do. And then finally, I'm going to showcase a little bit of my favorite work that we've done over the past couple of years and some of the content that we've created for the Data Vault Innovators Community, which you're more than welcome to go and hunt down. We'll put a link in the description for that. But first, before we get there, let's have a look at the news. As more and more AI tools are hitting the market, it's getting hard to distinguish the signal from the noise. In recent tests comparing OpenAI with other tools for search and research, there's a contender worth noting for data professionals. Perplexity AI is proving to be a superior choice for research. Unlike classic search engines and chatbots, Perplexity AI goes further in providing contextualized answers, making online searching more interactive and more informative. As the interface itself puts it, Perplexity AI offers several advantages compared to other GPTs and search engines. It excels in providing accurate and up-to-date information by using advanced natural language processing, NLP, for contextual understanding, undertaking a real-time web search at the same time, and references a diverse set of sources compared to a regular LLM. The platform's integration of OpenAI GPT technologies enables it to handle complex, nuanced inquiries and generate comprehensive responses, setting it apart from traditional search engines, providing with references for each query so you can readily check the provenance of information. Additionally, it uses OpenAI's ChatGPT 3.5 models and Microsoft Bing's search engine to provide fast and comprehensive answers to complex questions, making it a valuable tool for researchers, writers, and professionals in various fields. From our experience, using the tool is a step above Bing and ChatGPT. We'd encourage you to check it out at perplexity.ai. In regulatory news from the USA, the Biden administration will start implementing a new requirement for the developers of major artificial intelligence systems to disclose their safety test results to the government. The White House AI Council is scheduled to meet Monday to review progress made from the executive order that President Joe Biden signed 3 months ago to manage the fast-evolving technology. Chief among the 90-day goals from the order was a mandate under the Defense Production Act that AI companies share vital information with the Commerce Department, including safety tests. Ben Buchanan, the White House Special Advisor on AI, said in an interview that the government wants to know AI systems are safe before they're released to the public. The president has been very clear that companies need to meet that bar. The software companies are committed to a set of categories for safety tests, but companies don't yet have to comply with a common standard for the tests. The government's National Institute of Standards and Technology are going to develop a uniform framework for assessing safety as part of the order that Biden signed in October. AI has emerged as a leading economic and national security consideration for the US federal government, given the investments and uncertainties caused by the launch of new AI tools like ChatGPT that can generate text, images, and sound. The Biden administration also is looking at congressional legislation working with other countries and the European Union on rules for managing the technology. The Commerce Department has developed a draft rule on the US cloud companies that provide service to foreign AI developers. 9 federal agencies, including the Departments of Defense, Transportation, Treasury, and Health and Human Services, have completed risk assessments regarding AI's use in critical national infrastructure, such as the electric grid. The government has also scaled up hiring AI experts and data scientists at federal agencies. We all know that AI has a transformative effect and potential, Buchanan said. We're not trying to upend the apple cart here, but we are trying to make sure that regulators are prepared to manage the technology. This story highlights from a governance standpoint what's coming down the pike regulation-wise and points to using proven, trusted, and robust methods in the application of large data sets. And finally, in Switzerland this week at Davos, Sam Altman was interviewed at the World Economic Forum. The CEO of OpenAI made several disclosures about the future of artificial general intelligence, AGI, and the upcoming model, GPT-5. Altman emphasized that AGI is coming in the quote-unquote reasonably close-ish future. He expressed a mix of optimism and realism about AGI's development, acknowledging that, well, the timeline is kind of uncertain, since models take time to test for safety and the likelihood of unforeseen circumstances when it gets released into the wild. He suggested that AGI will be transformative, but perhaps not as disruptive as some people have predicted. Now, regarding GPT-5, Altman highlighted the continuous enhancement of AI's generalized intelligence. He suggested that future models like GPT-5 are expected to tackle more complex problems with increased accuracy, emphasizing that advancements in AI are not just about the more powerful models, but also about the growing community of developers building those models. And realistically, GPT-5 isn't likely to hit the market or be seen in public until well into the second half of this year. There's even speculation that it's going to be held off until after the US elections in November, just to mitigate any potential interference with the political discourse there. I guess time will tell. On a side note, Altman also discussed the intersection of AI development and energy. He argued that a breakthrough in energy production, particularly in sustainable energy like fusion, is required to advance increasingly capable and energy-demanding AI models. He's personally invested already in fusion startup Helion, which aimed to have a developed working fusion prototype by this year. And it's certainly true that the big wave of generative AI is now making landfall. Much, much more is likely to be hitting our shores as this year progresses. That's it for the news. Now, we're going to cross over to an interview with Scalefree CEO Christof Wenzeritt. He's an interesting guy because he starts off as an accountant, and now he's working in data and data management in one of the most prestigious companies out of Europe. So let's catch up with Christof. First and foremost, thank you very much, Christof, for joining me. I realize it is bright and early where you are at the moment. I hope you've got coffee ready, all filled up on the caffeine.
I do. Yeah, right.
Perfect.
Here.
Perfect. So first question I've got for you. What do you think is the most important thing that people need to know about Scalefree?
Scalefree. I mean, one thing that bothers me a lot that people don't know is that Scalefree is not foremost a training company, right? It's of course is how we started, but if we look now at Scalefree, training is like 10% of the business we do, right? The big part of Scalefree is consulting, right? And in that consulting area, we do a lot of advisory and also do a lot of implementation, but this is the core thing we do. And we do Data Vault. That is, everyone at Scalefree knows Data Vault. There's no consultant that doesn't go to certification and does internal workshops on it. So that's definitely covered for everyone. But we also focus a lot on, for example, DevOps and project management. We have a new class coming up with Scott Ambler regarding that. So there's a lot of more things. We also have a Salesforce consulting arm that's not usually fitting in the Data Vault Innovators Community. However, we also have that, right? So we can fix business keys in the source system. That's pretty awesome. So yeah, Scalefree is really different than most people think what we're doing. So that's, I think, the biggest thing. And also, we are a German company. That's also something that comes up a lot because our website is English. It's a .com website. We only have the English website so far. So people always assume we are from the US. So we receive a lot of inquiries from people from the US. It's like, yeah, now we're in Germany. I mean, we work in all over Europe, but US, it's a different matter. So
it's very hard
yeah,
to get there sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was going to say, because it sounds like you've expanded as you've gone along, and you know you've sort of plugged the holes where they've needed to be plugged when it comes to what the offering is that you guys do. But you're an accountant. How did you get involved to this point in the world of data management?
That's a good question. Yeah. All right. So I studied business administration and economics. that's what I did. I focused a lot on the economics part in the end, accounting, and also had a minor in IT as well. So there was general data management, but obviously on another level. So it was like Chen notation, I don't like those stuff. Um, but obviously not much. It all happened actually when I met Mike. So I met Mike back, I think in 2016 or 2015 even. It was I was coming back from a semester abroad, and it was late in my studies. So I said, "All right, yeah, I'm gonna finish my studies in roughly a year. I should focus more on my career because before of that, I worked a lot in like construction, things like that, to make money, right, to finance the studies." Um, so I asked friends, like, "Do you know maybe someone?" And I had one friend, his professor started just a new startup, right? He said, like, "Hey, this guy, he looked for someone more on the business administration side to jumpstart their startup or his startup." I was like, "Okay, give me his number." I wrote him. Then we set up a meeting. I went to his university and we met here in his office there. We talked. It was a great talk. We agreed on many things. He saw what I did before. It looked really good to him in general with my focus on accounting, because that's a lot of stuff that Michael doesn't like. So he was like, "Oh, that guy is perfect."
Perfect.
And that's how it started, right? The company was founded in March then, and that's a long time ago now. And obviously, I went along with the company. I was working a long time as a CFO, and since 2020 as a CEO. And obviously, in my role, I needed to understand more about data, right? So that's why I focus more and more. I got certified myself, and I do a lot of workshops and these things. I'm definitely not an expert, but it's enough to do interviews and do maybe
Mhm.
some questions for junior consultants. And yeah, this is my sweet spot. But that's how it all started and how it not ended, but where we are yet. Yeah, no.
So does that make you the European version of Shoji Chu, the guy who founded TikTok? He studied accountancy. He was CFO
Yeah.
of ByteDance, and now he's CEO of TikTok itself. Is that the next
All
big
right.
step for you?
I mean, it's a different company, but yeah.
Very different.
Um,
Absolute.
I think actually, obviously, I say that as I'm coming from accounting myself, but I think to have someone focus on finance also, so the finance and accounting and controlling, those people in general, I think are good fit in a leadership, because doesn't
Mhm.
matter how good your ideas are, if you're on a run out of money, you fail, right? So especially in
Yeah.
early phases of a company, I think it was really good that they focus a lot on just making sure the company invests wisely and grows enough with the finance we have in the background, and that worked really well. So I think it's a good combination to have both, right? In your leadership, you usually need the visionary in the beginning who's really focused on the product. For us, it was Mike. It
Mhm.
still is Mike. And I came in and took care of the boring stuff, but important stuff as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. So, as somebody then who has a really large role in the company, how do you unwind? What do you follow sports? Do you play? Do you have like a ritual to keep yourself grounded?
Uh, I don't. I don't have like one thing that I could maybe put forward here. I mean, I love sports, so I love to watch sports. I was born in Germany. It's football, obviously, right? But I love to watch football. I played a lot when I was younger. Um, we we have a team at Scarefree. We have FC Scarefree United. So we play regularly in the soccer park, which is awesome. So that's like one of those things. But other than that, I'm really I know I'm doing some music. I watch a lot of movies. That stuff. I still play video games when there's time. That's like one of my guilty pleasures. I really like to play video games, but
I
yeah,
know that
there's
feeling
getting less
very
and less
well.
time. Yeah,
Hmm.
that's what it is. So this is like it's a mix, right? So I don't have the one thing. Um, yeah, but I need something, obviously, right? If you work a long hours and you come home, you always need something to unwind. So I think the biggest thing for me is probably the music part.
Okay. What sort of music?
I play the drums, so
Oh,
that's
your neighbors
that's
must love
my
you.
instrument. Not in my building.
Ah,
The drums are actually in an old bunker in the city,
oh.
and they refurnished it and made it as like a, like, how do you say, a room where you can put loud instruments in,
Mhm.
and
That's
you
the
can play
perfect
instrument
use
there.
for a room like that.
Yeah, I think so too. It was a great idea. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, that's what I'm doing, and I've started to try to produce some music, like on, I don't know, like, I have my gadget, I don't know how it's called, something like that, and then I have a keyboard and I have drums
Mhm.
and that stuff. But small things like that. Mm,
Sounds fascinating. I've got no musical talent at all. I'm completely tone deaf. I'm the worst person when it comes to music, and one of my clients deals specifically with live concerts, which is a really weird sort of thing for me because I can go in and enjoy what they're doing, but I have no idea how it's done. It's always been a bit of a mystery for me.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah. I was going to say I don't know anyone who does music who doesn't enjoy it on some level,
yeah.
which
I
is
think
really good.
you need to. I think, except maybe there's a phrase, between real musicians. Right? I'm just a hobby musician, but it's always like, um, you're professional when you stop enjoying playing your instrument. But more as a joke, because if
Yeah,
you do it all the time to stay on top, it's getting draining, right?
yeah.
And I never wanted that, obviously, and I'm not good enough either. So it stayed a hobby. Mm,
Yeah,
mm,
I know. Yep, I know
mm,
exactly what that's like. Yeah, the
mm.
pressure that you put on yourself for it sometimes as well comes into play there.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Um,
Mm,
so one of the things I've been kind of curious as well recently is around reading. I have a bit of a library away from here because it's
mhm,
all pop culture stuff in here. But I love old school books, like written paperback, hardback books.
mhm,
And everyone
mhm.
keeps telling me, I recently traveled, everyone was doing the whole, you need to take a Kindle, you need to take an ebook, and I refused. But it did
Yeah.
make me wonder about how often people are actually reading older books, like paper print books. What was the last print book that you read, or the last book in print form that you read?
And to be honest, quite a lot. I'm still like old school in that regard. I really like to
Hmm.
read on paper. I bought myself a Kindle like years ago, and I used it for one book, and then I never switch it on again.
Yeah.
And which is, it's a great product, but it's just not what I like. So I mean, the last, obviously I read in books for work, but like the
Hmm.
real last book I read back to back was Dune. So not the
Oh,
first
yes.
one, I think it was the Heretics of Dune. So I only have one
Mhm.
more book to go in the series. I really love those books, to be honest. It's greatly written. The stories
Yeah.
are really fascinating. And actually, the movie came out last year, or 2 years ago now. That was great as well. I really look forward to the next one. But that's the
Hmm.
last book. Yeah, that was great.
Is it one of those ones that you're just putting off for now because you don't want it to end, or is it just you haven't got the time for it?
Yeah, it's more like it's not that long ago, so it's more like a time thing because I don't have time to read books like doing my, daily life. But I always do it with every vacation. I take at least one book with me, so and I read it back to back, right? And so my next vacation will come up in May, so I'm definitely will take Chapter House with me. Mm,
Perfect.
yeah.
Very good. So as a fan of Dune, what then would be your favorite science fiction show or movie, science fiction property?
Okay. I mean, good question. The thing is, I really love movies, and when I was younger, I tried to watch one movie every day. So I don't know, it was like one of my big hobbies. But it's really tough to answer questions like that. But I would say science fiction. I like the old Star Wars movies. I know it's a cliche, but I think it's just a great hero story. It's a fun watch.
Mhm.
The actors are great. Um, I really love those. One of the new ones as well, Rogue One, is also a good one, I think. The others one, not so much, in my opinion. And probably Blade Runner. I both the new one and the old one. They're both amazing. So it's a close tie, I would say. But those would be my go-to movies. If someone asks me which sci-fi movie should I watch,
That
Probably
makes
those
sense.
two or those.
I ran a movie
I,
theater when Rogue One came out. And so
oh,
we had
yeah.
these very strict rules that Disney put in place about its release. And it
Mm-hmm.
was things like you weren't allowed to advertise with lightsabers because apparently there were no lightsabers in the movie. That's how they promoted it or told us
Okay.
before the film came out. And we were told that we were allowed to test the film, but we weren't
Mm-hmm.
allowed to watch the film before the release. And the testing was opened because it was all controlled remotely or
Mm-hmm.
through digital keys.
Mm-hmm.
That it would be open for us to test at 6:00
Mm-hmm.
that morning, and then locked
Okay.
off at 9:00 that morning, and not reopened until the cinemas reopened for the day.
Mm-hmm.
And so me and my 2IC actually came in to work at 6:00 in the morning and tested the entire film just to make sure that the projectors were working fine and the sound was working. It
Yeah.
was well worth it. But one of the themes I noticed in that, data management and data quality, definitely come up as themes in Rogue One, because the way that they manage their files on Scarif, it just,
Yeah.
code
True.
names don't seem like a really good way for managing data.
Yeah, I think they don't think about it that much in movies in general, right? It's always like these
Yeah.
things where I think like that doesn't scale. That would never work.
No,
It's like
no.
I don't know.
It's like
Yeah, yeah,
enhance,
yeah,
freeze and enhance. It's just not something
yeah,
that they do properly. I remember I was actually preparing for this episode thinking, data
yeah,
management, data quality is a really big thing for the clip that we're going to be
yeah,
playing after this. And
yeah.
then, Rogue One definitely is all about data management at the end. It's very strange. So tell me
Yeah,
then,
you're
what
right.
would you consider one of your pet peeves? Do you have a pet peeve, something that really
I,
annoys you that impacts with the
mm.
work that you do in data management?
I mean, in general, obviously, I have pet peeves. I think everyone does, right?
Yes.
For me, it's like if something loads too long, it just kills me, right? It's like
Yeah.
we switched to quite strong notebooks in the company, so nothing loads anymore that long. And another thing is like when of course, we talk a lot, right? So, and every time we schedule a call, right, it's always this AM PM thing. And I understand why people are doing it, but I don't. It pisses me off. Like I don't
Yeah.
like it at all. Every time we have to schedule something with the US or New Zealand, it's always AM PM. Sometimes people just screw it up in writing an email, right? Or
Yeah.
it gets kind of swallowed when you talk, and it's not that obvious anymore if you have a huge gap in time zones. And
Yeah.
it's like just use the normal time or like the 24-hour clock that we use. It makes everything so much easier. So like when I, invite someone and say 15, right? It's like
Hmm.
15 o'clock. It's easy. People know what it is. It's no discussion what it means. Obviously, if you're not used to it, you would have to think about it. But if you learn it from
Hmm.
as a child, it's there, right, in your head. So that's something that always bothered me. Um, and yeah, that's definitely a data quality issue as well. But if you
Mm.
think about data and think about time, I mean, there's way more about that, right? It's not just like AM PM, but you also have obviously the different formats how you write time. So in Germany, it's day, months, year, right?
Hmm.
And then in the US, it's always months, day, year. It's like and if you have like an early day,
Hmm.
then it's like 11/11/2023, and you're in a email with two people from the US, two people from Germany. It's like, okay, often
Yeah.
in context, but sometimes you don't. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, you mean that, and yes, then you think about, okay, that comes from the US guy, so probably it's the other way around, but maybe you
Mhm.
want to be nice, because you used it differently before. So at one point, I just switched to year, month, day in my writing
Mhm.
as well, because that's the only format I think people, if the year's first, everyone thinks about year, month, day. No one thinks
Mhm.
about year, day, month,
Yeah,
right?
that's
So if you
true.
write it that way, it works better. So I switched to that one. But
That's a really good way of doing it.
yeah,
Yeah, see,
yeah,
one of
yeah, yeah,
when we were doing the graphics up for this,
yeah,
I screwed up the time for a start because I'm getting AM PM wrong with the release
yeah,
time for it, and then Sam, who will be co-hosting some of these episodes
yeah,
and producing this, he pointed out we need to go with 0800 CET for the release time because one, we knew it wouldn't upset you if we did that, because we've got the right time there. But also it means that everybody can understand it. Everybody knows what that means. So it becomes much easier to explain. But also if we're amalgamating information anywhere along the lines as well, we don't have, conflict of data sets there if you've got different dates and times that you need to track. It's very important.
Obviously, at clients, it's a nerve wrack, right? If you have like 20 subsidiaries that all send the data to central and everyone uses a different format, it gets demanding, right? To work with that data. So it would be amazing to have one standard. But there's always the phrase, as if there's 14 standards and then you try to figure out to have one that rules them all, after you're going to have 15 standards that I use, but it doesn't help. That's always the issue, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's maybe just avoid time in general. Ignore it completely. It doesn't exist. It's a completely made up construct, and it'll be brilliant for data management if nobody had times or dates to worry about.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Hey, Christof, this has been fantastic. Thank you very much for joining me. Do you want to give me before we go, a quick update about the meet and greet that you're planning in London? Because we haven't told people about it on this, but we are going to be announcing a bit more details on the DVIC forum. So it'd be great to hear from directly on it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I really look forward to that one. We're going to have the first DVIC summit. It's going to be in London.
I've got the 14th in front of me.
Okay, that is probably it's the 14th. I just checked the website because I can trust that our team puts it right there. So on the 14th of March in London, we're going to be in the Snowflake offices. They kind of sponsored that way the event as well. But it's good. They're great partners. And Coalesce is also a great partner, also partner of the DVIC. And we came up to say, okay, let's do an on-site event, right? Because I think it's a way better way to network, right? So I really look forward to doing more events in the future. And this is going to be, I'm sure, a great one. It's going to be a great mix of a short presentation, but it's not going to be much presentation, only a little bit. The biggest part of it will be workshops, right? So we're going to get in groups. We're going to build a data vault. We're going to talk about how you would tackle refactoring and all that stuff. Obviously, we would also show how automation flows into that, as that's one of the big advantages of Data Vault. But it's going to be a really interactive day. And it's going to be completely free as well. So it's really open. You can just sign up. There's going to be food. It's going to be a great place. We're going to do workshops. We're going to discuss. We're going to have a panel discussion at the end. It definitely is going to be a great event. So I really look forward to doing that and seeing some of you guys there. I know it's on site London. It's a worldwide community. So if you're from New Zealand, it's maybe not
I might not
way to go there. But everyone else, especially in Europe, you can reach London quite easily. So I think it's definitely worth it to come by.
Fair. That sounds absolutely amazing. I might try and go to the Australian one because I know we're planning an Australian one for this quarter as well.
Oh, yeah.
I have no doubt that it'll be the European one that stands out because Australia is nice and all, but everything there tries to kill you. Whereas London, it's not so bad.
Yeah, especially how are the bears called? I forgot.
Oh, the koala bears.
The
koala bear.
Yes, but this is like there's the one kind of type of koala bear that's really dangerous. I forgot.
Oh, the drop bear.
About them. The drop bear. Yes, be careful of the drop bear.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, really, really careful of the drop bears. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Brilliant, Christof. Right. Thank you very much for joining me today. Very much appreciated. People can find more information about what ScaleFree does clearly on the website, scalefree.com.
Sure.
All the details there.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Paul. And see you guys soon. Bye-bye.
Again, I want to thank Christof for joining me for this interview. I learned a whole bunch about him, which I didn't know he was a musician, had no idea he was a Star Wars fan. It's always fun to sit down and meet the people behind the businesses and learn a little bit more about them. One of the things that jumped out for me, though, was his love of Star Wars, because for me, I have always been a big Star Wars fan, if you can't tell by the memorabilia behind me. And I'm always really curious about things like the behind-the-scenes stuff. Like there was no railing for the Death Star when they shot that giant laser, and their data management seemed to be Very, very odd. And we saw that in Rogue One, where they built a literal data vault, and their data governance seemed to be to send in Darth Vader and kill anybody who might have tried to breach it. It was a really fascinating model, but it did get me raising some questions about the difference between data quality and data governance and how the two of them need to work together. It reminded me of this clip that we did back in 2022 for the Data Vault Innovators Community, which you can find more about at dvic.accelerate.world. In this clip, James Hartwright and Richard Harris sit down and discuss what the differences are and why it's important for the two of them to work together.
Yeah, there's an interesting catch-22 there. If you build your data quality reporting and there's nobody to take them on, you're stuffed. If you've built this data governance council that's there to look after all the data, but there's nothing in terms of progress or weird things, so you have to sort of do them in parallel. That bit we talked about before in terms of bringing a culture of data and data quality and classification of data, like you need to make sure that personal and sensitive data is hived away, not exposed, all of that. So the data governance council, yes, I prefer the word forum, a group of like-minded people coming together and helping drive the business. Get that set up, get the data quality process in there. If you find something where there's some real bad data quality in the organization, allow that forum to have funding to help improve that. It's not just that area's problem. You've got to help aid the thing. By doing that, you just immediately start surfacing that the organization respects good value, good quality data, and allowing people to put their hands up when they see something that's a bit weird. Feed that into the forum, and the forum respecting it and applying a risk profile and an order to it. But yeah, it's another of those things. If you can bring the organization together through that forum, then the tendrils just start going everywhere.
There's also inherent in that as well, understanding the different types of data quality and how they relate back to governance, because data quality could be accuracy. If we just look at email addresses, for example, does it have a first name, an @ and a domain that's viable? But then there's completeness. How often are we capturing that email? Because if you're, again, in a marketing-led organization, then an email is a highly valuable communication point. It's also a highly valuable business key in Data Vault for the linking of data together. And then, of course, you've got recency. How old is this email? Are we getting bounce backs, et cetera, et cetera? So you've got to start asking those kinds of questions about what you actually mean by data quality, and then which ones of those would relate back to your data governance strategy. Because again, that part of that quality, if you've got a piece of data that's being used ubiquitously across the organization, it's highly valuable, then of course that's going to be top priority in terms of governance and who has access to it. If it's PII, does everybody need access to it as well? So they do go hand in hand, but I think it starts with knowing what do we actually mean by data quality for the information we're managing.
Well, the only thing I would mention, I think it was probably 4 or 5 years ago, and I'm pretty sure it was Forrester that put out a report saying essentially the data stewards, which kind of fit under your governance structure, needed tool sets. You can't be expected to manage rules and policies and definitions for KPIs and whatever else. And also the related quality elements without tool sets. So a data quality framework so that you can manage data quality is one of the critical tools for a data steward to actually use if you want your data stewards to be effective in your business. So they're very closely tied together for sure.
So data stewards are definitely a guild of people, is like how we do it. And as Jill said, if you can provide them with appropriate tools whereby they can describe a data quality rule in English terms, and that they can then get deployed, and then you can lead that through. And when a data steward's got 300 errors that have been generated, to have those in English terms of you didn't put an install date on this new asset, they can drive that through. I try wherever possible to remove that formality. And the other part in there that data quality is very strongly linked to. So data governance councils were historically very protect, like we need to protect the data and keep it and secure it. I go just as much, and this is off a lady called Laura Madsen, who go and read her book on disrupting data governance. Promoting the use of data, surfacing that thing of this is good quality data. We are doing QA across this bit of data to the end of the earth. So have trust in this data and use it and share it and extend it.
And that's it. That's a wrap on the first episode of the Data Vault Radio Show. Thank you very much for joining me. If you want to tell people about what you've seen or heard here, please feel free to like, share, subscribe, get the word out, let people know what's happening. And if you want to learn a little bit more about the Data Vault Innovators Community, then head on to dvic.accelerate.world. All the information's there. You can sign up for free, come into the forums, come say hi to me. I'm always floating around in there. Again, I want to thank Christof Wenzeritt for helping me out and joining me for an interview. It's been a really fascinating day learning a whole bunch of stuff. So until next week, I guess, may the force be with you.